From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is Sports Bash presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where members are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. Sports Bash is also presented by the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund, a group of like-minded individuals trying to raise awareness to our future generations of all possibilities of success other than just college. For more information, visit www.lookwhomadeit.org. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash and get a free dessert with your meal. And later on in the show, we're going to have a recap of that wonderful 9/11 tribute drone show presented by the Embassy Diner last night. We're also brought to you by Coach's Collectibles, your number one source for 100% authentic sports memorabilia and live public autograph events. Check them out online at www.coachescollectiblesny.com. And by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Hi again, everyone. I'm Peter Schwartz. 516-465-3990 is the phone number to call. And welcome to a special and I guess also emotional edition of Sports Bash on this Thursday, September 11th, 2025. It's obviously a rough day for a lot of people, and not just because of what happened 24 years ago today, but also of what happened yesterday in our country with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I have to be honest with you, I don't talk politics a whole lot. I really don't talk about it at all, other than with my wife or some family. I really didn't know who he was. I don't follow politics close enough. I know he was very attached to the younger population, and I only found out about it. I was on a train ride home yesterday, and my older son Bradley called me from college because it was going around the football locker room and around the campus, and I had heard the name, but I maybe I'm wrong in not knowing enough about it to understand, but until I did some research. But it shook him up pretty good, and it shook up my son Jared too. So learning a little bit more about what happened yesterday, obviously I realized how big of an impact it was. So you have what happened yesterday compounded with the anniversary of 9/11 today. And this is really a tough couple of days here in the United States. And I thought about this, and again, I don't want this to sound politically driven because I don't talk politics. I don't discuss who I vote for and who I support because I don't think it's necessary, especially on a sports show. But I just wanted to make this one blanket statement. 24 years ago today, we were at war with the enemy. We were at war with people who did not like our country, who did not like Americans. Those were the people we were at war with 24 years ago. And like the great country that we are supposed to be, we didn't take that sitting down. We fought back. And we came together as a country 24 years ago, and we went about our business. A few days, a couple of weeks later, sports came back, and we went about our lives. And 24 years later, the difference from where it was back then on September 11th, 2001, we're not at war with the enemy. We're at war with ourselves. And that's the problem that we have in our country right now. We went from being at war with this horrible group of people to being so divisive. And that is really what the sad part is. And I know a lot of people are mourning today over what happened 24 years ago. And I get it, and I understand it, and it's sad, and there's different emotions about today. The emotions are sadness. The emotions are still anger. Even though they got bin Laden, a couple of years later, whatever it was, or a few years later, it still hurts to think about what happened 24 years ago. And when I started mapping out, because this is how I function, doing a show 2 days a week for an hour, a sports show, you try to map out your shows far enough in advance, and almost to the point where I'm kind of anal about it. If you know me, you know how when I attack something, I attack it 100 miles an hour. So you try to book some guests a couple of weeks, especially if it's a big one. You try to book things. You think back, what am I going to talk about on this date? And then I start to look at my calendar and I see that I'm doing a show on Thursday, September 11th. I'm like, okay, we have to make that a September 11th tribute, but not like CNN would do it, or not like Fox News or NBC or whatever. But I wanted to do a show that was dedicated to what sports was like after 9/11. So we're very, very lucky later on in the program. We're going to talk to former Mets third baseman Edgardo Alfonzo. And if you remember back then, the Mets were not that the other teams weren't, because sometimes when one team gets praised for something, other teams are like, well, we did something too. But the Mets were front and center after 9/11. Shea Stadium was used as a staging area, the parking lot. And you saw the Mets, again, not to disparage what all the other teams did, because everybody in New York and New Jersey chipped in after 9/11. But the Mets, for whatever reason, were front and center because of where Shea Stadium was and where Citi Field is now. And it just became a very much of a rallying kind of thing. And then, as it turns out, the first sporting event in the New York area after 9/11 was 10 days later, on September 21st, 2001. And I was very, I don't know if the word fortunate, lucky, I was honored to be at Shea Stadium that night. And we'll talk about that later with Fonzie, and you'll see a video a little bit later on that recaps that night. It's how emotional it was, and it was just like, screw you, we're not gonna stop our lives. We're just not. People like to go to baseball games. Actually, to be honest with you, the Met-Brave game was the first regular season game played after the 9/11 attacks. There was a Rangers-Devils preseason game that was played before that. I was at that one as well, covering it for ESPN Radio. So that was actually the first one. And then the Mets-Braves game was the first regular season game. And then a few days later after that, the Yankees played their first home game. If I remember correctly, it was against I can still say Oakland A's. I mean, they're not Oakland A's anymore, but they were the Oakland A's. I'm pretty sure the Yankees played Oakland in their first home game after 9/11. But the Mets were front and center. However, when I think about that morning, and whenever something big happens, you always remember where you were. People who are older will remember where they were when Kennedy was shot, when JFK was shot. People will remember where they were when Reagan was shot, when this happened, when that happened. Where were you during the hurricane, whatever. And for me, 9/11, actually my memory of 9/11 starts the day before. Oh, Tony, let's not show Eric Cairns at the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I was going to.
Are you going to cut that? Yes, I'm sorry about that. I'm like, oh, Tony is using the Pittsburgh Penguins jersey. I'm like, no, let's not do that. No. I'm sorry. But I'm sorry. Back to I digress for a little bit. But my memory of 9/11 actually starts the day before, on September 10th. I was a week or so, a little bit more than a week, into a brand new job that I had. I was hired as a full-time sports reporter and anchor at ESPN Radio's local New York station. And my first assignment the week before, when we went on the air, was I was covering the U.S. Open. On September 10th, a Monday, I was in New York City during the day. I had to go to my company orientation. I was now a full-time employee by Disney/ABC, and I had to go into the city for my orientation. And then that night, I was assigned to go cover the Yankees-Red Sox game. It was Yankees-Red Sox. I think Roger Clemens was supposed to be pitching. And I went to my orientation, then I went to Yankee Stadium, and it started pouring. It started pouring like you've never seen before. And the game was rained out. I think it was at Yankee Stadium till like 10 o'clock at night before they banged the game. And I was getting concerned because the next morning, I had to drive to Lake Placid. Why did I have to drive to Lake Placid? The first pro sports team that ESPN Radio New York signed, it was even before we went on the air, were the New York Islanders. We signed a 3-year deal with the Islanders. Their games were on 1050 ESPN Radio. And as part of that, ESPN set me up to cover Islanders training camp for the first 2 or 3 days of training camp, and they were holding training camp in Lake Placid. So I'm at Yankee Stadium. I'm like, could you just call the game already? Because I got to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning to go drive to Lake Placid. And sure enough, the game was called off. I leave, I go home, get some sleep. I'm in my car. I am probably an hour or so away from Lake Placid. I'm listening to some radio station. I was losing all the New York stations at that point, and I'm trying to find some music to listen to, whatever. This is, I didn't have Sirius or anything like that. And I find this like podunk radio station upstate New York to listen to some music. And all of a sudden they break in with, a small plane has hit the World Trade Center. I'm like, oh crap. And I continue to proceed a little bit, and I actually then was able to get WABC back to wherever I was on some mountain. I got out of it, and then WABC came in. And Warner Wolf, who was on the channel back then on WABC, called in. He was watching from his apartment. Another plane hits the World Trade Center. I said, this is not an accident now. Now we're under attack. And, I'm driving on the thruway, and I'm like, well, what do I do? I'm a half an hour away now from Lake Placid. I keep going. But now as I'm driving, I'm looking up in the sky like, is there going to be another plane that comes crashing down? And I kept going. It turns out you couldn't drive back into New York City anyway. So I just kept going to Lake Placid. I wound up getting into an argument with my program director. Like, why did you turn around and go home? I'm like, I couldn't get back into New York City, and I was already half an hour away. So I went. I check into my hotel, watching some news, and now I walk over to a building that housed one of the greatest moments in the history of the United States, when the United States upset the Soviet Union in the 1980 Olympics. And we're going to show you a couple of photographs that I took personally of the Islanders at training camp that morning, September 11th, 2001. And I'm sitting there in the arena, and I'm thinking to myself, the irony of being in a building that housed one of those great moments on arguably what was our worst day. And I say arguably because, there might be people who feel like, Pearl Harbor was worse, or there might be people who feel like other things were worse. But that's why you always use the word arguably. And when you do sports updates and you have to credit somebody, you say reportedly. Arguably the worst moment in our history. At that point, like, sports is so, doesn't matter. I mean, in my life, aside from family and friends, it's the most important thing for me personally and professionally. It's what I do for a living. But like, the last thing you wanted to do that day was watch guys skate around a sheet of ice. And what do? Well, after practice is over, you talk to the players. Peter Laviolette was the new head coach of the Islanders. They had just traded for Michael Pekka and Alexei Yashin. In fact, on the subject of Yashin, he had just been acquired by the Islanders from the Ottawa Senators. There was a camera crew in Lake Placid from Ottawa that was there to cover Alexei Yashin, his first camp with the Islanders. They get a call from their editors at their TV station telling them, go drive to New York City and cover 9/11. Well, the next morning we saw them back at the rink at Lake Placid because you couldn't get into New York City. But I remember and also, I mean, you also want to make sure you call people. Like when something like that is going on, you want to make sure your loved ones are all okay. And at the time, I was living with my brother in Oyster Bay on Long Island. My mother's still living in Florida. The first phone call I make is to my brother because he worked on Long Island, but if he was, I couldn't remember if he was off that day or not. And when my brother was off, he would always like to go into New York City for the day. So I made sure I called my brother first and made sure he was okay and told him I was okay and that I was in Lake Placid. Then I called my mother to make sure everything was okay in Florida, that I was okay. So you do that. And then I watched the Islanders for the next 2.5 days. I watched the Islanders practice. And then I went home. And then we all went about our business, trying to get back to our lives. Eventually, ESPN Radio went back on the air after they simulcast the WABC for a couple of days. Went back to covering games. The Mets came back. The Yankees came back. We started the hockey season. So we're going to talk to Edgardo Alfonzo about the Mets after 9/11. And on the subject of the Islanders, we're going to talk to former Islanders defenseman Eric Cairns about the Islanders after 9/11. After the 9/11 attacks, the Yankees made their way to the World Series, and they ultimately lost to the Arizona Diamondbacks in 7 games. Along the way, there were some emotional moments, including, and I was in the house for this at Yankee Stadium, Lee Greenwood sang "God Bless the USA" before Game 4, October 31st, 2001. Powerful stuff. I don't think there was a... I said to myself beforehand, if I make it through this show without crying, it'll be a miracle. There wasn't a dry eye in the stadium that night. Not a dry eye. And I don't know how... I don't think there's any other words to describe what we were all feeling in New York and all over the country, really, after 9/11. It was just brutal. But we came together as a country. That was the most important thing. And we used sports as, not that it completely took away your sorrow or your anger, but it was a way to get away from what you were going through in your life. And at least, I know there were Met fans didn't want the Yankees to win the World Series. I'm not stupid. But the Yankees going to the World Series again did actually do something to bring everybody together and give everybody something to enjoy and watch a little bit. And then there were the Mets, who obviously played the first game back. But that night at Shea Stadium, for all of us who remember what Shea Stadium was like, and again, for me, it was Met games, but it was also Jet games. Just when it got loud in there, and the fans went nuts, you literally, and Tony, you know this as a Mets fan, the decks would shake at Shea. Now, I was in the press box, and you could feel, and the press box was... the press box was right around the mezzanine level. It was between the loge and the mezzanine.
Yeah.
But that when Piazza hit the home run, I sent him the Zoom. He's giving me the. Let me excuse me, everybody. Hang on one second, because we want to make sure that we give him the Zoom to call in. Just hang on one second, and I'm going to get back to. Where did I send it to him? There it is, and there is the.
Well, while you're doing that,
yeah.
I
if
will.
You want to,
I will
want
fill
to
the
say
time.
something.
I will just say that since the Mets didn't win a World Series with Piazza, I think this is arguably his most heroic moment as a Met.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
But my point was that the upper deck, the press box was shaking. I still have my credential because I did not have a full season credential for the Mets at that time. I had the credential, and then at my seat in the press box was a white piece of paper, Mets versus Braves with the American flag on it, Peter Schwartz, ESPN Radio, the dates of the 3 games, and I still have that at home, and I hold on to that very, very proudly. And someone who was on the field that night on September 21st, 10 days after 9/11, one of the great players in the history of the New York Mets. Part of the 2000 team that went to the World Series, and obviously part of the 2001 Mets that helped New York get back on its feet after 9/11. Former Mets third baseman Edgardo Alfonzo joins us here on Sports Bash. Edgardo, it's Peter. How are you?
Peter, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing great. Well, obviously as good as you can be on a day like this, where we're remembering what happened 24 years ago. I was just talking about the night that you guys came back and played the Braves and Mike Piazza hit the home run. If you could just sum up, if you remember your emotions that night, and it wasn't a sellout, but I think there were like 40,000 people at Shea that night, a huge crowd. What were your emotions, and what were your teammates' emotions that night as you guys got back to business?
Yeah, everything started when we on the way back from Pittsburgh. We had to take the bus back to New York. I remember when when we see like the ground zero from far away from like the Washington Bridge. It was like everybody started quiet. People, the emotion was really bad. I mean, it was like something really major happened in New York, and you see the smoke and everything. So we get to the ballpark, and then we Bobby was a great leader. Bobby Valentine was a great leader by then because he told us then we have to do something about this. We have to help people. We had to help those guys, the people who lost loved one, and then the next day. I think we all get together and this guys going to the ground zero, guys going to the like PRs, to stations like police station, fire department station, to help them out and help them out. And it was emotional. It was really really hard for us as a player for New York,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And I mean, you don't feel like you want to play anymore. You
Right.
want to be over with, but when the President Bush was saying then the baseball must continue, we decided to, okay, let's play. Maybe when we get to the ballpark, when we get to the dugout, to the clubhouse, it wasn't really like game time feeling. You don't have that feeling to play, but you know what? When we started walking outside, taking BPs, we play against the Braves, and then we see all the fans outside. I mean, it was like wow, this, most of the guy, I would say most of the guys crying about it,
Mm-hmm.
and then that was a really big laugh for the fans, for the players, for New York, and you see what happened after we play against the Braves. The Braves was always the rival,
Yep.
uh, and then nothing better than that, walk off. Um, Beat those guys in the field, and you hear the fans cheer the fans, guys emotional in the fields. I see fans crying, and then you feel like Shea Stadium was like bumps,
It was
like
shaking. Edgardo, I was in the press. I was just telling the story
my
before.
God.
I was in the press box that night covering the game for ESPN Radio, and you literally, when
Mhm.
Mike hit the home run, you literally could feel the whole stadium shaking.
It was amazing. I mean, I wasn't in the dugout, and then you can feel the bites. You can feel the jump. I remember that I got to walk. I got to walk, and something that we was doing all year round. I get on base for Mike, and Mike, do the thing. And this Mike, that's why one of the greatest hitters, catcher hitters in baseball. So he come through.
No question about it. We're talking to former Mets third baseman Edgardo Alfonzo on the anniversary of 9/11. So it was actually when you guys came out on the field, you weren't really sure if you really wanted to play. And when you saw the fans as
Definitely.
as a great fan base would normally do, giving the team the lift. So it was the inspiration from 40,000 people being there that let you guys know, hey, it's okay for you guys to play baseball tonight.
Yeah, I know I mean, it's like I just telling you, man. We walk into to a clubhouse, and then the emotion, and nobody wants to. I mean, nobody wasn't like, oh my God, we're still thinking about what happened. We're still thinking about people who lost their loved one. How we can help. And then I remember one thing. I think later in Franco, and those guys say, how about if we give one of our paychecks, one of the they pay for the loved one, for the family,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody was like, okay, let's do it. So I think we donate one paycheck, one pay day for the families, And then after that, everybody wearing like different hat, the departments are like,
Mm-hmm.
NYPD. It was something, really special for we as a player, for the fans. And then you walk outside, you go into the line to do the sprint. You warm up sprint, and you see those guys with the signs. Hey, let's go. USA, NYPD, fire departments, guy from the front in the front line,
Yeah.
man. That was amazing. That was amazing.
What for you and the rest of the team? Obviously, that year ended without a trip to the postseason. But for being in New York and living in New York, what were your thoughts on how not just the sports fans, but the whole city, the whole area, how they fought back and how they got back to their lives? And obviously, you guys and the Yankees and the Jets and the Giants and all the New York teams all
Yeah.
played a role in it. But what were your thoughts on the way that New York rebounded from 9/11?
I think it was amazing. It was amazing the way that everybody step up and continue their life. Definitely, it wasn't be the same one, but they don't let back people. People always fighting. They always talking about what happened, but you continue to work. You continue to play. You don't scare about that. I mean, you just want to prove then the American is gonna step up again. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna it's gonna grow up again. And people on the street is what they talk. I mean, I spent almost 30 years in New York, and I become into one of the New Yorkers too, and I feel that. I feel it when I walk to it's funny because when I pass through the fire department, I stop there and talk to the guys, police department, talk to this guy because they got they suffer a lot. I mean, everybody's suffering, but those guys was in the front line. They was there, but I think the New York did a tremendous job with everybody, USA again.
Mm-hmm.
They come up and they fighting back, man. I think it was great.
You can be honest with me 24 years later. Were you rooting for the Yankees to win the World Series?
When that year?
In 2001. And I know you weren't rooting for the year before. I'm just saying that year, given everything that New York was going through
Well,
and they make it to the
I
World
think
Series, were you rooting for the Yankees?
if you're a sport guy, you just wanna give the best to New York. What if he wasn't the Mets? Why not the Yankees? I mean, I'm not the guy then no because I hate you. No. If you're gonna be a good for the if it's gonna be good for the city, man, why not? I mean, I'm not like okay, let's go, but if you got the opportunity to win, let's do it.
Right, right,
Why not? But definitely, I mean, when that something happened like that, the last thing you think about is the driver.
right.
The last thing you think you want to hate those people. No, no, yeah, everybody's gonna be together like everybody did in that moment. We all together. It doesn't matter what color are you. We just help them out and try to overcome for all the situation. It was in New York.
It was definitely it was a tough time, but I think we all as New Yorkers came out of it okay. And you were part of so many great memories, with the Mets over the years, and a lot of those memories are going to come back to life this Saturday because the Mets are putting on the Alumni Classic at Citi Field, and I love the way that. And I know the owner Steve Cohen wanted to bring this, and I know Jay Horowitz, and we love Jay Horowitz, and we thank him so much for hooking you up with
Everybody,
us here.
everybody loved Jay.
Oh,
Everybody loved Jay,
who
man.
doesn't
Jay's
love
something
Jay
else.
Horowitz, right?
Jay's something else.
He is one of the greatest of all time. But I know he had a big part of putting this together on Saturday. Basically, it's going to be. I guess you don't want to use the word old timers anymore, but it's an alumni classic, and it's going to be
Old
team.
timer is what it is. Old timer,
It
man.
is an old timers day, but I guess they just want to make it sound a little bit better, right,
Yeah,
Fonzie?
alumni. Yeah, alumni to make it like a little better.
Yeah,
Alumni.
yeah. So it's Team Shea Stadium against Team City Field. I'm sure you are excited, just incredibly excited to be part of this event and to see some of your former teammates, other former
Yeah,
Mets, and to be in front of the fans again on Saturday.
definitely, definitely. I think it's gonna be great. We did it like what's it, 4 years ago?
Yeah,
Maybe 3 years ago, something like that.
couple years
Yeah,
ago.
it was great to watch to see all those guys that you always names. I mean, you hear the names, but you don't even know in person. Now then like I see those guys in person. That was amazing. seeing my older team, my former teammates back in those days, and I think the one thing is for the fans, I think they're gonna love that because they're gonna see guys from Shea Stadium, City Field, and then and it's a fans, you're gonna love it.
Yep.
You're gonna love it. I don't know what position you're gonna play. Remember, I don't play only third base. I play second base too. I made my
Yes.
career better in second base. But I don't know what I'm gonna play. Man. My knees killing me. I don't know what am I gonna
Are you
do.
going to be
But
the DH? There's a
I gotta.
DH in the National League now.
But yeah, but the problem is who's gonna run the base. That's the problem.
Well, maybe we
But
can get like maybe Mookie Wilson can still run, and maybe he could run for you.
he can still play. I tell you that. Mookie is amazing. His body is tremendous. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it's gonna be exciting now that I have Ordonez with me. Finally, I get to get Ordonez to go to New York. I think Ordonez was it was one of the big part of the Mets grading field ever. And then I think he did a great job in New York. So I think people want
Yep.
to see him again.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, especially even the more recent former Mets playing on Team City Field. Before I let you go, I have to ask you a favor. My producer, Tony Walker, is a diehard Mets fan. I know he's been sitting here loving this interview, and I'm going to give him a chance to ask you a question because I'm sure he'd love to, at the very least, thank you for all the memories you provided to Met fans.
Oh, goodness.
All right, Tony, what's up?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. This is you put me on the spot. I didn't know Peter was doing this. How did it feel to you were elected the best second baseman ever for the Mets? That must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. But your boy there, Peter, was telling me a third baseman. So
Well, listen.
He's a Yankee fan.
First
Don't
of
listen
all,
to him.
It's full disclosure. I am a Yankee fan, but my wife and my kids are Met fans. And you know what? I wasn't sure to call you third base or second base. So when I went to Wikipedia and I went to MLB.com to just make sure, it lists you as a third baseman.
Wow.
I know, but you remember this name, David Wright. David Wright was one of the best third basemen. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but in 2000 and 2001, you were predominantly playing third base, right?
You want to hear something nice? I think it was 201. 202, something 201, I think it was. I don't know. I remember I was in a spring trainer in Florida, and then I was taking ground balls in third base. No, I think it was something like that I was playing third base. I was working in third base by then, and then in the backfield in Port St. Lucie, the main field is there. So if you want to work extra, you're gonna go to the backfield. So the backfield was guys taking ground balls in third base. So the thing is, when the big league guy going there, so everybody got to clear, and it's unfortunate. This is the way it is. But I was there, and guess what? Davey Wright was taking ground balls in third base. So I don't even know who was by then. So I was taking ground ball, and I see him like on the side waiting for me to be done. And I told Cookie Rojas, I say, Cookie, tell this guy to come and take a ground ball with me. And then here come Dave Wright. I don't even know how good it's gonna be, but he was taking ground ball with me and third base, and then after that, the rest of history.
Yeah, he turned out to be pretty good, right?
Yeah, he can be pretty good. So, back to your question, Tony. Second base. That's a great honor. I mean, that's a great honor for me. I think the Mets, in the future is going to be a better second baseman than I.
Well,
and then
maybe I find that a little hard to believe, but of course that's possible. But because you were not only a great defensive second baseman, but you were kind of like in the Keith Hernandez world. You were one of the smartest ball players that ever put on a Mets uniform. So you're definitely appreciated in Mets world.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was something special for me playing in New York. I think I learned how to play there. The fans was really a really big part of my career in New York. So,
Edgardo, I can't thank you enough for spending some time. Obviously, it's a solemn day, it's an emotional day, and I felt it would be good to kind of reminisce about how the Mets helped New York City come back to life a little bit. And I really appreciate you coming on our show. And Jay Horwitz was just checking in with me to make sure that you actually dialed in. And I will text him back and tell him thank you that you did. And I hope we can do this again at some point in the future.
Definitely. You got my information now, so let
Yes.
me know, and then we go from there. So
Yeah,
thank you
I will
guys
not
for
share it with Tony, so he will not harass you. Okay.
Tony, come on, don't let that do that to you, man. Don't let it do that to you, brother.
I'll settle with him in October. See where our teams are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fonzie,
All right.
thank you so
Thank you.
much, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Edgardo Alfonso. That was awesome. That was really good. That was my pleasure. A little early Christmas gift to you. That's great. This is part of our reminiscing of 24 years ago on 9/11. Coming up next, I'm going to be joined by former Islanders defenseman Eric Cairns. And before we do that, I want to take you back to October 20th, 2001, the concert for New York City at Madison Square Garden. One of the many performers that night was, of course, New York, Long Island's Billy Joel. And we always come back from the last break with a Billy Joel song. In this case today, we go back to October 20th, 2001, the concert for New York City. And one of the songs that Billy did that night was Miami 2017, Seen the Lights Go Out on Broadway.
You know those lights were right on Broadway, but that was so many years ago. Before we all lived here in Florida, before the mafia took over Jericho, there are not many who remember. Say a handful still survive to tell the world about the way the last man and keep the memory alive.
And that was a wonderful, wonderful concert that night at Madison Square Garden. That day for me started at Nassau Coliseum in the afternoon when the Islanders retired Brian Trottier's number 19. So I knew I had to go cover the Yankees and the Mariners in the ALCS. So I went to go watch the Brian Trottier number retirement, stayed for a period of the Islander game, and then went to Yankee Stadium. And then that concert, watched it when I got home. But we talked to Edgardo Alfonzo, the former Met, before about how the Mets dealt with life after 9/11. And then, of course, I told the story earlier about the Islanders opening up training camp the morning of September 11th, 2001. And one of those players who were on the ice at Lake Placid that morning is former Islanders defenseman Eric Cairns, who joins us here on Sports Bash right now. Eric, it's Peter. Thank you very much for joining us here on the show. How you doing?
Oh, doing great. Thanks for having me, Peter. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. It was good to actually walk right by you at the facility this morning while the Islanders rookie camp was going on, but thank you again for joining us. I told the story before about driving up to Lake Placid that morning to cover the start of Islanders training camp, and you guys were already on the ice when I got there, and I'm just wondering if you could think back what that morning was like for you guys, finding out what happened and how difficult was it to take the ice that day in Lake Placid.
Yeah, obviously a memorable day for the wrong reasons, but I guess I'll start the story off the day before when we jumped on the bus as a team leaving Long Island to go up to Lake Placid, and remember going over the Frog's Neck Bridge and looking to my left and actually seeing the towers and the city. Obviously, it was a beautiful day. On our way out, and then, fast forward, we get up to Lake Placid, we all get settled in for the night, get some sleep, and ready to start training camp the next day. And I remember waking up, and my roommate was actually Garth Snow.
Oh, okay.
That camp, and waking up, and then we put the TV on and seeing what we saw, and I guess myself, I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know if it was real or someone made a mistake or
it felt like a movie. Didn't it feel like a movie?
It felt like a movie.
Yeah.
You're cloudy a little bit waking up and then seeing that. And then I remember us just sitting there watching it on the TV for as long as we could because in shock and in horror. And then, we had to go to first day of training camp. So I remember there was talk about us not going on the ice that day, but wound up going on the ice. But obviously, like the mood was a little bit low for everybody. It was just your head's, you're on the ice, you're practicing, you're trying to get yourself prepared for a season, but your head's not fully there. You're thinking about what's going on with some friends or people back where you live. So it was tough.
Yeah. Was there a thought that did Peter Laviolette? Was there ever any thought of like shutting down practice early? Because the Jets tell the story about how like the next day, because Tuesday is an off day for NFL teams, and the Jets were back on the practice field the next day at Hofstra on that Wednesday, and Herm Edwards could sense that the players weren't into it, and he cut the practice short. Was that ever an option for you guys that morning? Just saying, hey, look, we're just look what just happened. We're not into it. Let's see if we can come back tomorrow.
Yeah, like I said, there was talk about not having, just canceling everything that day. But then it just wound up that we ended up going forward with it. But, like I just said, the mood was low, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't, you weren't at, like, when you're a pro athlete, you get on the ice, first day of training camp, middle of the season, you're there to practice and get prepared for whatever there is to come, right? But
right.
When you, as an athlete, your brain needs to be fully involved. And, I just thought that all our brains were not fully there. We were thinking about other things. So, I mean, we did it. We got out there in practice, but then I'm sure I know I did, went back and turned on the TV again just to see what was going on.
When you guys got back to Long Island, we're talking to former Islanders defenseman Eric Cairns, who is still with the organization in a front office role, and we're talking about how the Islanders got through September 11, 2001, and the weeks and months ahead. When you guys got back to Long Island, how important, and the Islanders have always been so helpful in the community. They do so many wonderful things. How important was it for you guys to get out in the community, to make appearances, to try and put smiles on people's faces again?
Very important. We always, you take that stuff seriously, and with a situation like this, it's even more, I guess, needed, or you want to do more as much as you can. Like there was a few of us living together that year, and I remember hearing, people died on the street that we lived on in Garden City. So it's hitting home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then obviously trying to get out and get people's minds off things that they can't get their minds off of. But you try your best, and you go out and play the games and try and give people another source of entertainment as well. So we tried our best, but like everybody knows that lives in Long Island or in the city or Westchester or Jersey, that was a really difficult time.
It was, and obviously, getting sports back and everybody getting their lives back together was very important. Sports played a huge role in that, and you guys get off to a great start to the season on the road that year, 2001, 2002, and then you come home for the home opener against the Red Wings, and it was on a Saturday night, and I remember this, and just watching the big flag come on the ice, and you and the Red Wings, and I guess there were first responders also that night holding that big United States flag over the ice at Nassau Coliseum. I know I talked before about how the Mets came back against the Braves and had an emotional return for sports. But what was that night like for you and your teammates being there with 16,000 people, continuing the healing process and having a memorable moment there on opening night?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was really cool. Just the first responders, the American flag felt like it was the size of the Coliseum. Both teams understanding. You're going to competition against each other. Both teams understanding the moment as well, right? And that was memorable. I got to tell you, there was a preseason game that was memorable as well, and it was against the Rangers where we all kind of lined up together. I believe during the national anthem, where you got Rangers and Islanders. That's it's quite
sacrilegious,
a rivalry, right? But we're basically just showing that we're all here and we all understand as athletes what is going on right now. We wanted to show some unity, right? You're going to go to competition against each other, whether it's exhibition game, regular season, whatever it is. But we're just trying to show people hey, we're all in this together type thing. So I remember those two game moments. It was very memorable.
Yeah, and definitely emotional, and it was obviously great to have sports back. And then, it had been a while, 7 to 8 years before since the Islanders were last in the playoffs, and that year you guys make the playoffs, you end the drought, and although at the end of the day, after 7 games, it didn't go your way, that was a very, very memorable 7-game series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we've been showing a photograph of you after a little, that was a pretty physical series against Toronto. You had a couple of, throwdowns with a few of the Maple Leafs, and there was one famous picture of you skating off the ice with your finger up in the air. Again, I unfortunately that series didn't go the way you wanted it to go. But what are your memories of that series and bringing the Coliseum back to life as far as the playoffs were concerned?
Yeah, it might have been some of the funnest hockey I ever played. The memories of the series, obviously, it was a physical series. It was a tough series. We were a team that hadn't had success. Now we're in the playoffs, and I think that the biggest memory of that series was just the fans in our building.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this a bunch of times, but that place as a visitor, with the way our fans were and how they created such an unbelievable atmosphere for a visiting team to come in there and play us with that atmosphere was really difficult on the other team. They were definitely our seventh man. They were unbelievable, and that's the thing that I always talk about with that series. Obviously, we all, as players, we all had our moments in that series, but the fans were so supportive, and the atmosphere was great, and it was exciting, and we almost beat them, but it was the memories from that time. When we get together, we still talk about it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no question it was, and I'm sure still as a member of the Islanders organization, and I'll close on this. There is so much excitement about what's going on right now with the new general manager, Matthew Darsh. He had the first overall pick in the draft in Matthew Schaefer, and I know the rookies gathered today for the start of rookie camp there. And the fans, Eric, are so pumped up about what seems to be like a breath of fresh air around the organization. Do you share that? How much excitement is there in the Islanders organization to get this new era underway?
Yeah, I mean, listen, very excited. Excited about how our team's going to be this year and what our future could be. Mm-hmm. And our fans are our fans. They're the greatest fans in the world. They're just so supportive, thick and thin. They'll be there for you, and we want to give them a lot to be excited about as well. So I'm excited. Management's excited. Players are excited. It's just a lot to look forward to. So, in my job in player development, I work with all the young guys that aren't necessarily in the organization just yet. They're playing. They're all their teams around the world, and I get to watch these guys from the time they're drafted until they turn pro, and it's been a lot of fun for me doing this for a little while now. Just watching these guys grow and get better, and then turn into dads, some of them, and so it's just I'm so fortunate to be in the spot I am to be able to watch these guys and then get to know them a little bit and then see what they become, and it's no different than right now. Just getting excited about these new crop of players that I'm going to get a chance to watch this year. So excited for a lot of different reasons.
No question about it. Eric, I can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes with me on the show to remember 9/11 on this anniversary of September 11th and talk a little Islanders hockey with you. And I'll see you around the rink.
I'll see you around. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Eric. I really appreciate it. Former Islanders defenseman Eric Cairns, and now in the front office working in player development. And it was just, you think about that day, man, it was rough. And again, not that it completely erased the memory of what happened, but when you look at what the Mets were able to do 10 days later and with Piazza's home run and lifting the spirits of New York, and although Met fans may not want to agree with this, but the Yankees going back to the World Series for the 4th year in a row and really should have won. That still bothers me. Yeah. I visited... I was on a New York Dragons road trip a few years later, and I took a tour of Chase Field where the Diamondbacks play. Mm-hmm. And the first stop they make is this trophy case. And in that trophy case is the 2001 World Series trophy. And I said to the tour guide, "Is it okay if I bring that home with me? Because it actually really belongs to us." He didn't find that very funny at all. I thought I would try, at least on behalf of Yankee Nation. I thought Yankee Universe, I would try to bring the trophy back home. But in any event, didn't happen. Whatever. But what the Yankees did, and then the Jets and the Giants coming back and playing. The Jets wound up going to the playoffs that year, and the Islanders and the Rangers and the Devils all doing their thing. So it was, sports certainly played a huge role in the healing process. Again, we on this day we remember all the lives lost. They will never be forgotten, and that's where we are with that. I know we're going to run a little overtime here, but I do want to get to something that happened last night at the Embassy Diner, one of our great sponsors, and they did a drone show. Thousands of people outside the Embassy Diner in Bethpage watching the drone show, and Gus, the owner, who we love, had all kinds of political guests. Bruce Blakeman was there, Joe Saladino was there, a host of others, and we're looking at some of the video that I shot there last night to show you the different variations of drone images. There was a 9/11, and the show ended with an Embassy Diner image up there. But they did a tribute to NYPD and NFDNY and that sort of thing. So, and look, there is not a person, I don't think, who lives on Long Island who loves the police department and the firefighters and the first responders more than Gus at the Embassy Diner. And you can see it when they renovated the diner, everything red, white, and blue, and the tributes. And if you show up there at the right time, you might see Bruce Blakeman. You might see a police officer come in there for a meal. So it's a wonderful place. And of course, again, we thank them for being a sponsor of the show. And they treat everybody like family at the Embassy Diner. There was another one that said "Never Forget" up there on the screen. So that was a great thing to see there last night at the Embassy Diner on the night before 9/11. Coming up this Sunday, we talked about this on the show last year before we made the move over here to Governor's Comedy Club. Wantagh Warrior 9/11 Memorial 2nd Annual 5K and Fun Run takes place this Sunday. It's presented by the Gary Sinise Foundation. It's a wonderful event. They did it last year, and it was a tremendous success, and they're bringing it back this Sunday. So if you scan the QR code on the image that we're showing you on the screen right now, you can be a part of it. If you can't go, you can still make a donation, but very important subject to promote and to support, and we wish Wantagh High School all the best with that event on Sunday. Now, next week here on the show, we've got a big week next week. It was pretty emotional getting through this show too, and we put a lot of time and a lot of effort into doing what we were hoping to do, a nice 9/11 tribute sports-wise today, and I think we pulled it off without question today. But we get back to the business of sports next week here on the show with two amazing programs I think we're going to have for you next week. On Tuesday, September 16th, that's this Tuesday, when we're on our regular time at 1 o'clock, of course, I'm going to be joined by former Giants linebacker and current radio analyst Carl Banks. Again, this is like when I talked at the beginning about me being anal and just trying to plan ahead. We have been working on Carl Banks for a long time. He's a pretty tough guy to get a hold of, even though he's very active on social media. But we were very, very happy to get him. He's got it on his calendar, and we're going to have him on the show on Tuesday, so we're looking forward to that. And we just locked this down today. And it just shows how different the vibe is around the Islanders right now, how different the culture is around the Islanders right now. Next Thursday, 1 o'clock, our regular time, we will be doing our show live from Islanders training camp at Northwell Health Ice Center in East Meadow at Eisenhower Park. The Islanders have been very accommodating. We're going to have a location in the front lobby. And depending on how the day's practice schedule goes, we will either have a live guest, hopefully during the show, or I will tape a couple of interviews outside the locker room and we'll have it for you. Maybe an Islanders writer will join me on the show as well. Tony doesn't have to deal with my nonsense. He just has to look at me over Zoom from Northwell Health Ice Center. But I think the fact that he was able to talk to Edgardo Alfonzo today, he's okay with anything I want to do really here on the show going forward. So we're looking forward to that. So Carl Banks on Tuesday, and we are live at Islanders training camp next Thursday at Northwell Health Ice Center. And I think that covers all the bases with just 3 minutes of overtime that was needed here on the show. That'll do it for this edition of Sports Bash presented by TicketBash.com and the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. Many, many special thanks to my guests, Edgardo Alfonzo and Eric Cairns, for joining me. Very special thank you to Jay Horwitz from the Mets and Jay Bieberman, two great Jays. Jay Horwitz, Jay Bieberman from the Islanders, for arranging those guests here on the show today. Thanks to Tony Walker, who is still beaming from talking to Edgardo Alfonzo, and thanks to everyone here at Governors. Thanks to our social media coordinator, Connor Kalb. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, Coach's Collectibles, and by the Marty Lyons Foundation. For our entire crew, this is Peter Schwartz saying thank you for watching and listening. Sports Bash returns Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody, and God bless America.